there's two ways essentially to get where you're going, which is back home. We stray from home, and then something like a magnet pulls us back. And for example, out here on the mesa in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, I'll dox myself a little bit there. We have these sage bushes. Well, sometimes they're sage trees, and they grow non-linear. Right? They're very curvy, and they're scattered across everywhere. Various rumors of how it got here. Apparently, the most widely held rumor is that the Europeans brought it over. The Spanish brought it over. We have this sage everywhere, and not so many juniper trees, but we do have them too. And so, when you walk through the sage to get somewhere, everybody knows that it can be difficult. You either have to jump over it, or you have to really battle your way through this stuff. But every now and then you'll see coyote trails, maybe people trails too. Like I have one that I take the dogs on, and so I can walk through the sage, no problem. I don't have to jump over anything, nothing tangles my legs. I just walk straight. I walk in a straight line pretty much through the sage because there's a path. You get where I'm going here? Get where I'm going. Anyway, yeah, so you can go through the sage. You can get where you're going by walking through the crazy sage, and it'll be a tough time for you, but you'll get there. Or you can walk a path that's already cleared out for you. All right? So I say that only to not get disparaged if you can't help somebody or if you see suffering in the world. And they're all on a path. They just might be treading through the sage. Okay. All right. So let's go back to this text here. Hey, Doji, I think it's okay, buddy. Doji, see, it's okay. Doji's got his hair up. You see a wolf out there, buddy? A coyote? I'm very planted right now, sitting so comfortably. I cannot get up to look, but I could tell by the way they bark what kind of object it is. Usually, Luna and Little Bear, they will go crazy if it's a person. It's very fierce barking. Okay, so it looks like Yeshi has this bookmarked for us where we left off. Wonderful. Um, Again, this is a natural liberation of awareness. Natural liberation of awareness. Awareness can't be liberated. I think natural liberation within awareness or natural revelation of awareness would work for me and my pickiness. This is allegedly a composite of Padmasambhava's teachings. Now, remember, technically, he had no teachings. They were all created after his time. So it's up to us to decode and see, are these really his teachings? And there are ways to do that. He has a remarkable story of his own awakening, and Guru Rinpoche, as he's known, Guru Padmasambhava, the Lotus Born, is considered like a founding uh, parent. I could say father, but these beings they can actually emanate according to tradition in female or male forms. So either way, he's a founding father of the Nyingma tradition, really in the beginning there in the 7th to 8th century, where Tibet was first establishing their curriculum and the migrations of Dharma from India. And so the Nyingma schools were established with Shantarakshita, King Tristan Detsen, and Guru Padmasambhava sort of worked together to establish the Dharma very early on in Tibet there. And of course, the legend goes he's very famous for subduing spirits. Allegedly, he was very unruly in Tibet. And so he got up there from India, this tantric practices, and subdued the land and the sky and the wrathful warrior. That's a human. And if they get closer, the bark gets crazy. Good boys, good puppies. You saw that wolf out there. You saw that wolf, huh? Yeah, that's right. Did a good job. So funny how I said wrathful, and all of a sudden the dogs got wrathful. But anyway, that's right, Yodi. Still getting wrathful with a good Padmasambhava. Right, Yodi? Woo woo. All right. So this is yeah, Guru Padmasambhava was known as a Lopan. So and Santarakshita was considered uh Kempo. So it goes Kenlo Lop Cho is the saying. Actually Ken Lop Cho Sum, which means three in Tibetan. So King Tristan Detsen was considered Chopan king. So that's why you have Kenshin, Lopan, and Chopan. So and they always abbreviate. So Ken Lop Cho Sum. The three sort of founding figures. Just to give you some background introduction of what we're reading and who we're reading from, right? And I think that's a good enough introduction. They established the teachings there successfully, although barely established there. So I won't go into the historicity too much more, but that's anyway, it can be interesting. So I was asking, what did you mean by subjugated in the previous sentence? I got a little confused. Apologies. Which sentence? You'll have to go back and let me know the context. Oh, well, basically, I don't know. I don't get down with the mythology too much and the legends too much unless I have some decoding going on, some proofs going on, because I don't know what they made up and what they didn't. But I can, this one I didn't believe at first, or I had my doubts about it at first, like, probably something made up. But then I started to believe it when I moved out here on the Mesa. When I moved out here on the Mesa, there were a lot of bullies. There were a lot of drug addicts stopping by my house. There all kinds of stuff. And to me, that can be seen as the same as these, they called them demons. I don't want to call anybody demons, but it is demonic sort of possession. We'll get under the influence of desire or hatred. We want to steal. It's like we're possessed. And so here, me and my friends, well, it was, I did a lot on my own. I got into situations with these folks, and these days, let's just say it's very peaceful. Nobody disturbs the house. Um, Nobody disturbs my neighbors. Like these guys were so whacked out on meth that they were like really being cruel to the females too. My neighbor, she was getting abused by a meth addict. I'm not trying to blame the drug. I know some people can do it and maintain, but it really exasperates. It will amplify your demons. That's straight up fact. That's why you see so much weird stuff happening these days on meth and fentanyl, where people are killing their parents and stuff like that, killing their siblings, and then feeling terrible about it when the drug wears off. This stuff will reach your innermost demons, and it will bring them out. Yeah, it will bring them out. And then if you're lucky enough to get off of it, then you'll have a pretty significant recovery period. But this was a young man, just a young man. He was born out here actually, with parents who just did not care about him. They just didn't care. They left him like one of these dogs to be raised by the Mesa. And he was incredibly, and he's locked up now, Money home. But he's incredibly mean to the scraw. And so things like that, I had to stop that, So I had to evict him off the Mesa, and a couple other situations like that, pretty serious situations where I felt like I could have easily got killed or hurt, but it's worth it protecting this neighborhood. And maybe that's not what monks do, or what the ideal yogi does, but that's what I do. That's what Dawai does. So that's what it is. This is my only home, and I protect my dogs. I protect my neighbors, the elderly out here, the weak, the people who have fallen weak. Um, if we don't have our neighborhood, if we don't stick together, then we really don't have anything. No safety, no security. So to me, there was a lot of that. Even coyotes, packs of coyotes and rattlesnakes that I had to banish away from my property so they wouldn't bite my dogs. It was all here. And I started to see, well, maybe Guru Rinpoche was on something like that, where he had to clear out his area. And I saw how it became possible because people start respecting you all of a sudden. Like everybody starts to respect you when you stand up for yourself. And so just like that, they probably respected Guru Rinpoche. And they said, all right, we better. And then all of a sudden people are meditating. People are being mindful and nice to each other and stuff. I don't know if my story makes any sense. It's the only way I could really share about how do you subjugate the demons of the land that you're on, right? It's the only really way I can relate to that. Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty abstract, Ozo. Hard to speculate on any definitive label for that. That's why I told the story, to maybe you can get a feel of it. All right, let's go back to the text here. And again, this is some. I even have the book right here. Natural Liberation. Here it's just called Natural Liberation, not of awareness. So whoever stuck that in there. But anyway, you're getting a blessing through this text, as I've mentioned before, because it's Gyatrul Rinpoche. It's very pithy, and Alan Wallace translating. So I'm gonna get into a little bit. I know we're at the top of the hour, but it was story time. So especially here in the West, when people think of meditation, they think of something that's very special. When you practice meditation, you expect to see, hold, feel, smell, or taste something special. You hope to get something or to be able to bring about something special in your meditation. All such notions are misguided. In the actual practice of meditation, you set aside all of your samsaric trips, and letting them be, you do nothing special. Since the very nature of awareness itself is beyond birth, abiding, and sensation, how could meditation actually be doing anything? There is nothing to meditate on, and there is no basis of meditation either. Yeah, remember, the other day I said it's like a mosquito bite that thinks it's gonna create its own enlightenment, its own healing. Um, the mosquito bite has no idea that it's becoming healed and it's going back to normal skin again. But just like that, you're not gonna have any idea. You are the mosquito bite right now. No offense, okay? but that's what the condition self. It's a mosquito bite, and it itches. But when you recognize awareness, awareness comes from all sides, from the bottom up, and heals this mosquito bite. So at the same time, this mosquito bite saying, I recognize the awareness. I recognize the healing. Excuse me. So to me, that's watch your mind when it does that. When it tries to use contrivances and fabrications to understand the unfabricated. And then also, I invite everybody to watch that Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo video, because she really talks so good about the nature of mind, and how it's so simple that it gets blown out of proportion, in a lot of books and tales about it, and the political power one gets with realization, if they choose to accept it. Those like Gyatrul Rinpoche, I feel like really Dogo Khyentse Rinpoche, we're good at denying the political side and keeping it real, with Dzogchen. So spiritual fruition itself is transformed into the path. Is there a fruition or a culmination of spiritual practice? To transform the fruit into the path, you practice without hope of accomplishing anything and without fear of not accomplishing anything. Yes, remember, a lot of people try to say that, oh, abandon hope and fear. That means I can't hope for people to be happy. No, when they say hope and fear, they're talking about directly in the context of your meditation. You cannot hope for this or that state, and fear not being in an enlightened state. These things are just taking you away from the presence. So you can ask, well, won't I become a Buddha? If I practice, won't this lead to my achievement of Buddhahood? You transform the fruition, which is Buddhahood, into the path. A lot of people clap their hands in debate on this point, and the end result is that their hands get very, very red. Again, someone can remember, that's a reference to when they debate in the Tibetan monasteries. They go like this. Again, someone can ask, don't you become a Buddha as a result of practicing this path? Isn't there, in fact, a result that comes from following this practice? My response to this is, can't you be satisfied with transforming the fruit into the path? Yeah, this is a constant feeling of needing to be somewhere else that we have. But we're just coming into pure presence, and then things are peeling off of the pure presence, and that's your freedom. So take the analogy of parents. Parents nurture their child by feeding them and taking care of them in all ways. By this gradual process, the child grows up. As the parents are nurturing the child, is there anyone who comes to the parent and says, this isn't your child? Nowadays, yeah. But anyway, or does anything happen if somebody outside the family comes and says, this is your child? That the child are theirs is already true. Wait, that the children are theirs is already true. Ah, they switched it up on me there. So likewise, our own nature is the fruition, but in the course of our practice, we are bringing our own nature to maturity, just like parents bringing their children to maturity by caring for them. It is already our nature, and somebody else telling us it is or it isn't so doesn't change anything at all. That's just the way it is. It's interesting. Alan Wallace's translation ends with a "That's just the way it is," nice and pithy, but then such a clunky. Uh, well, I'm not going to critique the composure of the edit too much. Um, yep, that's just the way it is. Okay, so we'll stop here.